We're starting down here in the bottom left-hand side of the map. Top of the red Protoss player from Team Alpha X. He is Astrea.
In the top right-hand side, the guardian of Tier 2 America. It is JonSnow. You know, that music really does sound like he's on like a show. It's like, welcome to the Guardians of Tier 2 of NA. It's like JonSnow just smiles, the music comes on. It's like, so today, guys, we've got a new up-and-coming NA player, but is he good enough? Oh, okay, go on then, Fear Dragon, take us away.
Okay, my boy Astrea is going for something I really did not expect, because this is not usually a map that I think of when I think of cannon rushes. It has traditionally been a kind of tougher map for a lot of that stuff, but we'll see exactly what Astrea is going to go for. So it seems like he's going to probably try and go for the 3-pylon wall. The idea is you wait until the drones are almost here, then you throw up the remainder of the wall. The pylon on the bottom right here is going to provide high ground powering to build a cannon and a gateway and a pylon. So he's going to go cannon, gateway to wall in the cannon after he cancels those other 2 pylons, and then another, he has to throw another pylon. Oh, is he going to try and go for a full wall over here? Ooh, okay, that is
cannon in.
That's pretty tricky. I like it.
Probe took a few hits, so it can't get back up to the high ground to replace high ground vision with a new pylon. But I imagine that's kind of his next goal, right? Because having high ground vision is really nice. And the pylon up here is how this continues to be very successful, I'd imagine. So there's the pylon. You're not going to kill that pylon unless you get Lings out. And of course, we're way far away from getting Lings out here. So Astrea gets the setup perfectly.
Yep, and he's going to take that one gas geyser. He's going to go for the second gateway. So this is going to be the 2-gate version of the cannon rush. If you go for the 2-gate version of the cannon rush, you don't really need to grab your second gas geyser anytime soon. Not unless this is just really not going super well. Amazingly enough, JonSnow, he's building the spine crawler on the low ground. Wardy, this tells me that he wants to actually try and defend this, but there's no way he can actually get this up in time to defend.
He's just building a spine on each side. Maybe just a bust from both sides at the same time.
But the creep is going to recede once that hatchery dies. So that spine is just going to start bleeding out. It's not going to be useful very soon.
Oh, Ling's buying some time where the cannon isn't hitting the hatchery. So the hatchery's not down yet. So all hope is not lost for the moment. Cannon does finish up on the high ground. He will focus down the Lings. High ground cannon going to get hit down by the spine crawler though. And here we go. The attempt of the burst of the spine comes in. Trying to chrono boost the Stalker as the Lings continue to run into this. The other Queen from the high ground. It's just one cannon really dealing damage here at the moment. Good pullback on the Queen. Stays alive. Another cannon finished on the high ground though. The Probe even trying to help out. He will try and get the Queen up there. He does. More cannons on the high ground.
Okay, one of the Stalkers, does manage to finish up on this low ground, but the Probe does end up going down, and this is a huge problem. JonSnow is actually making this happen because Astrea never got the chance to get the second probe back over here, and so he still cannot actually build any shield batteries. This is a really, really important part of the push-in, and now one of the gateways getting really, really low. I think Astrea may just have to start thinking about transitioning, and he's going after drones. Oh, man, I really think he should have maybe tried to find ways to get more damage done to the hatchery, but I guess he knew that there was probably going to be more Lings coming out, so he didn't want to stick around.
Yeah. It's rough because it feels like how do you ever transition away from this? But then JonSnow did invest a lot into defending as well. Resources lost is hugely in favor of JonSnow. If you look at the income, it's been pretty favored to Astrea, but not so much so that...
His warp gate. I think his warp gate's going to get depowered. Is this? I don't think the Cybercore is in range, is it?
No, it's...
Oh no! Astrea!
This is probably not how Astrea saw this going, but he's brought it on himself, Fear Dragon, right? You know, this was his build choice, and JonSnow found the defense for it.
You know, Wardy, I actually wanted to mention and say, I haven't seen Astrea cannon rush very often, if ever. I think this is a new thing he's been trying to pick up, or a newer thing he's been trying to pick up. And I have to say, I think there's still a few little quirks about cannon rushing that are not super obvious and take a little bit of practice and experience to get through.
I can understand that. It's cannon rushing is like a super... People think cannon rush is just like, oh, you know, he's just like, you just like build some cannons and he kills me. It's so dumb. There's actually a lot to cannon rushing, and especially doing it on a very high level and making it successful consistently. It's a lot of little things you can do and change to make the difference, basically.
Yeah. In baseball, because this is in the North American region, it's the knuckleball. It's the knuckleball pitch where it has a really, really weird effect. Pitchers who do it usually, very oftentimes, mostly only throw the knuckleball if they throw anything else. And you become highly specialized in it because there's just so much to it to get it right. And it can throw people off, but it's something that requires a lot of practice. So to do effectively, I should say. And I say that just because it does tend to have a reputation of being the opposite.
This was an analogy that got me more confused.
Really? Wait, do you not know what a knuckleball is?
I have no idea what a knuckleball is.
Oh my god, so a knuckleball, you may have even heard of it, but maybe you just don't know the name of it. There's a pitch in baseball where basically, normally most pitches will have some kind of spin on it, right? Even if you just throw a baseball or a ball normally, it'll have some spin added. A knuckleball is not super high, but a pretty fast pitch, a relatively fast pitch that has no spin. And so the air currents actually have a much greater effect on it. So it kind of just moves with the air currents. So you can just imagine it's basically a baseball, but it just starts moving in seemingly random directions as it's coming to you.
That makes sense. I do physics. I understand what the lack of spin does.
You were a physics major. I always forget that.
Yeah, master in physics, man. It's a cool title.
That's crazy. And to think that you decided to spend your time casting StarCraft.
StarCraft. I know.
You could be saving lives right now, but you decided to cast StarCraft. What a man. What passion.
Hydroden is going to finish up from JonSnow as the road speed is halfway along. And I'm just looking at the numbers, right? And looking at where the game is at. Like, Astrea went Stargate, he made some Phoenix. And I actually don't feel like the Phoenix really saves him from the big issue of how the hell do you survive if JonSnow just gets across the map and looks to fight you?
Yep, and I think JonSnow is already keenly aware of exactly that kind of volatility that exists with Astrea's approach right now, because he's just pumping out some roaches, he's pumping out some hydras. The hydras are probably going to be mostly useful for just pushing back the Phoenix for now, but I really wouldn't mind if JonSnow just went really ham on hydras and tried to at least shut down the third base, because if Astrea gets up a third base, I can kind of see worlds where he starts to mount a bit of a comeback with just really, really good mechanics and getting the tools he needs to mount a comeback, like splash damage units.
Oh, this looking. Yeah, you just kind of summarize what I'm thinking, right? Where I'm trying to find a way to say what Astrea does, and you kind of said, like, you need to kind of get us some splash damage, and especially against hydras, right? You know, hydras do not die unless you've got unless you outnumber them, and there's no outnumbering going on in this game from Astrea's point of view. I don't mind Astrea's work account or anything. It's just that, you know, JonSnow really has just been able to get up to hydras for free. He's going to keep on droning for free. You know, these Phoenix might kill 4 drones, and JonSnow's going to be like, oh, what was that? A fly buzzing in my mineral line? Like, he just doesn't really care about it.
Okay, well, he's going to be able to pick off a couple of hydras, which I actually really, really like. And to some extent, I actually like that more than just going straight after the drones. But yeah, 3 drones picked off. Like you said, it's not massive damage over here, but at least Astrea is getting something done. And it is about the fact that he is buying space and time for the robotics beta finish up. And I think if he can get out something like Disruptors, yeah, Disruptors, or even just if you can get up enough Colossus, but I'm a little more worried about the Colossus getting up into high numbers.
Yeah, if you get there. This is the thing, right? I feel like a lot of what Astrea is doing, like, if he gets long enough and he gets there, great. But the whole point of the position he's in is that JonSnow should have been able to take more of an advantage of it. And as time to expire, I feel like he isn't. You know, he's running up further. He's not coming to attack. He starts +2. Really makes me feel like there's not much going to be going on.
Yeah. And I think that these Phoenix are really just keeping JonSnow pinned back more than they need to. I'm definitely with you. I feel like, you know, 5 Phoenix is not a massive number. This wasn't double Stargate Phoenix follow-up. This wasn't 7-8 Phoenix just picking off drones left and right and everything. Yeah, sure, partially because the hydras are here, but I actually feel like this is something that could just be resolved with a few extra queens and the spore crawlers that are already out.
Man, I really wasn't a believer in these Phoenix, but they've definitely stuck around for a good long time so far.
15 drones have been killed so far, and I think it's almost entirely maybe like a few drones killed from the cannon rush, but it's mostly been the Phoenix actually doing that damage.
Yeah. I mean, this is the point, though, where JonSnow should look great. He's finally decided to go across the map. He waited to be maxed out, more or less. There is a Colossus out. The thing is, Colossi, I think, do okay against this army, but only when you get to like 3 or 4. 1 or 2 really don't affect this, I really don't want to believe. Let's see. I just don't think there's enough support for those for the Colossi either, right? Like, a few Stalkers, I mean, they don't even have Blink yet.
Yeah, I also feel like Astrea kind of overused the force fields there to force field that ramp. I actually think he only needed maybe like 2 force fields. I don't even know if the third one is super necessary because they're going to get knocked down anyways, but it just makes a choke point and makes it awkward for a little bit. Regardless, though, he's going to be forced to take this fight. The Ravagers are diving on in, and there's just so much Zerg that he's actually just incidentally attacking probes that are trying to mine during all of this.
Yeah, I don't see a world in which this 4th base survives. I'd be very surprised if JonSnow backs off without the 4th base. I can understand him repositioning. He obviously wants to try and get this army if possible. It's not an easy position to fight into, but once the 4th goes down, yeah, Astrea has to back off. A, there's no reason to keep fighting there, and B, you have a much larger concave that uses the Zerg. So it makes sense for him to back away now, and I actually wonder if he can kind of keep moving through here. There's only so many force fields really remaining. First ones go down well, and the Colossi start up properly. Cannon there to help with the battery overcharge also.
Let me tell you something, Wardy. Those Colossus are raking in kills right now, but this is going to be at the cost of yet another canceled 4th base, which you could either call desperate or bold, but I guess desperation gives way to the bold. But now another Colossus pops on out. I think that Astrea's next win condition here is that he maybe tries to establish a 4th base again behind this, but he goes on a big attack now that he has a decent number of Stalkers and 3 Colossus with a Disruptor coming on out soon.
Yeah. I kind of like, I don't like him being this far forward. I mean, the 4th base is actually going to buy him a bit of time, but he's sacrificing your 4th base to save the army. That'd be okay if you went in such dire straits, right? But he needs that 4th base, I think, to stay in this. We're talking about 30 minutes in game as drones going down across the map.
Yeah, the drones getting killed off on the other side of the map is nice for sure. Astrea has a 2k mineral bank, Wardy. I just realized this. He's only sitting on 5 gateways, and he's been mining. Yeah, he hasn't been able to get up a 4th base, but he's got 3 bases. He's only making 1 robo unit at a time. I feel like Astrea just forgot his production or something, and finally a few more gateways are finishing up. But there's a reason why he's banking so much.
Oh, Disruptor and probes in the main going down.
Oh.
JonSnow still, you know what? As soon as Astrea spends this money, JonSnow is actually maybe in trouble. A little bit. He is.
Would you spend it on
just now?
Would you spend it on just remaking the army, or would you also split it up into like taking the 4th again?
Depends what he's gonna do, right? I mean, I guess that's your question. yeah, right. I don't mind. I think you need a 4th base because I think there's a realistic chance you go across the map and you trade well, but you don't end the game. And then you struggle on a 3rd base. And also, I don't think you spend it all without taking a 4th base anyway, right?
Yeah. Okay. Well, he is just going to move out across the map, which does, like you kind of said and implied, it forces Astrea to be more committed in the damage he does. He has to get more than a little bit of damage. JonSnow is also taking it up to a greater spire, so if Astrea does not nearly end the game right here, well, JonSnow is going to be in a really, really fantastic spot with Brood Lords potentially on the way. This base is already taking a lot of damage, and there are a few force fields still left over here, so I think JonSnow doesn't want to just immediately commit on in. Disruptor takes out the Changelings. That's not exactly the fight that he wanted. Oh, here comes in the flank from JonSnow. I love this. This is a great move.
Blinks to the left side, though, so he can kite the Colossi to the left because he's already dealt with the units there. And the Colossi are picking up so many kills on Ravagers and Hydras. Corruptor's showing up, but honestly, the Stalker count might just do this. Pushing through a fungal doesn't do enough, and that's a dead base. Astrea, do you keep going? I think you just rotate for the top side base because then you've got JonSnow on 3 base, and it's like, hey, have a taste of your own medicine. I've been sat on 3 bases all this time. How do you like it?
Yeah, and there's actually a 4th base coming up on a retreat path for Astrea. I actually normally would hate that 4th base location for Astrea, but right now, if he takes out this base and just needs to back up, I love it because he's going to be retreating back into his other base that he just established. A lot of stalkers are going down over here, but the infestors are getting taken out. The drones are being pulled off, and that base is going to be going down. Astrea is actually pushing through. He is bringing this game back from the brink.
Wow. Now we see that Astrea, I think he's pretty much got this in the bag, right? I really wonder if JonSnow just waited too long, right? Gave us a bit much time, and I know he did a lot here, but the problem with Roach Ravager Hydra is it's just a very inefficient comp, because Astrea takes it down. So again, my question becomes, if you just wait that long for an inefficient comp and you let Astrea get the tools up, even though you're denying a 4th base, that's not what he wanted to do. He was meant to go win the game, and he didn't win the game. And I mean, imagine how much closer it might have been already if this had been a scenario in which we're talking about a set of production that actually spends 3 base economy, right? And he has those extra units on the map already. Then it maybe doesn't even get so messy. Maybe he gets a 4th base up, and then we're like, wow, what did JonSnow do this game at all? So I don't really like how JonSnow decided to go about this. I didn't mind the Hydras. I thought maybe just like a 60 drone Hydra all in or something, but he tried to like go macro and then all in and then have no follow-up, and it's just like a bit too much of a mix of everything.
I am with you on that. I feel as though also even during the fight, JonSnow had the big army on the south side where he was trying to get a cancel/kill on Astrea's 4th or just kill the army. And it felt like maybe 75% of JonSnow's army was actually fighting versus Astrea's army and kind of pushing that back. And then 25% of it was just sitting on the bottom of that mineral line and just attacking the Nexus. And that was like a lot of wasted DPS. And sure, it does eventually kill the Nexus and everything. But I feel like Astrea was just getting these really, really great trades and some great force fields off to hold on. And that's just the fact that the Colossus all survived. That was one of the biggest game changers, right? The number of kills on those Colossus was absurd. I feel like that just, it gave Astrea this kind of lifeline to start coming back in the game with these really, really good trades in exchange for the 4th bases a few too many times. I agree with you. I feel like JonSnow maybe missing a bit of a timing there to attack earlier or even just commit a little bit harder. And then even after that, maybe the Greater Spire choice, not so great when he was also investing, it seemed like, into the infestors. He had maybe his hands in too many cookie jars there. Yeah,
and then he didn't get any cookies. He's like, he gets all his hands in, but he doesn't get any hands out. And that's the worst case scenario. 0 cookies.
That is my least favorite scenario, Wardy. When I put my hands into 4 cookie jars, and then I realize that these little stubs between my fingers prevent me from actually grabbing the cookies. It's just my fingers in the cookie jars, and I can't reach any of the cookies.
I need each of my fingers to get like a cookie magnet implant, right? So I just...
A cookie magnet. Oh, that's some next level stuff. I mean, as a physics major, I trust you in believing that cookies are somehow magnetized. I didn't think they were, but I trust you.
We could make it. You know what they say.
We could make it. I'm a physics major.
If you want something bad enough, we can make it happen. Okay.
Okay.
I believe. Okay, let's introduce our player in the top right who feels like he didn't quite get the game he wanted despite the start. It's JonSnow.
And down here in the bottom left-hand side of the map, we have the red Protoss player. He has the name Astrea, but his cooler name is Max Angel. I like that our production is just like, who's Max Angel? just like a little bit of a pause there. I'm sorry. Max Angel, his real name. The only player I know who has a cooler real name than his gamer tag.
Honestly, I feel like if you say Max Angel and you add that music that we just heard to it, though, it's
that's
like
true.
It's good, opening of a superhero cartoon or something.
You know what? Next game, we'll do that. We'll do that with Astrea. I'll say his name and then we'll just shout Max Angel.
I ain't just an angel. I'm the Max Angel. Like rips off his shirt. The music kicks in. He slays some nerds with Protoss. Yeah,
my favorite way
that's the thing, right? You can have all these really cool intros, but at the end of the day, you sit down in front of the PC before you can show off all your skills.
It's like, you know what I want to see? I want to see one of those YouTube videos that's like reality versus the stream or like the expectation. and you have like the epic zoom in and like the cut to different camera angles and everything. And then you cut to like just the player sitting there with no music playing whatsoever. And you kind of just scratch their chin like, like look at their armpits, give it a smell. I was like, like the reality versus what we show in production.
You know, I'm really shocked, you know, with esports moving online, and you know, a lot of esports leagues starting to use like player cams as the players play from home and stuff.
Oh yes.
I'm really surprised we've not had more like esports home cam disasters, you know.
You know, I'm also a little bit surprised about that, but honestly, I think the player cams to get in games are actually not as difficult, and I feel like players, as long as they know that it's there, it's not too big of an issue. I remember I did a North American best of 69 between JonSnow and Peely, and actually, funny enough, because you know JonSnow's here, I made them stay on player cams the entire best of 69. Can you imagine how stressful that is? Where you're not just playing like a best of 3 or a best of 5, and we cut to break sometimes. You're on screen in game, you're on screen between games, you're on screen for the winners interviews and all that stuff. Oh my god, that was so stressful for them.
It's not going to be as stressful as Astrea having to defend this Ling Flood. 20 drones from JonSnow, going to get aggressive. Astrea is on a Twilight Council building glaives. That ain't going to help him. Best case scenario here is you cancel the glaives and you build an immortal, I think, and you continue to wall. Problem is on this map, if you continue to wall back, the unbuildable bricks actually do become an issue at some stage. Has to recall the Adept as well. Plus side is he at least finishes warp gates, so won't have to restart that, and we'll get an extra warp in off of at least this right side gateway.
That is absolutely massive. Finally, also starting up a shield battery. Really needs to restart a cyber core. If he doesn't have the cyber core, he's not going to have units that attack over the wall besides these adepts, which are definitely going to be very, very useful. But you also can't build shield batteries or anything. That pylon is going to finish up. He is going to have both of his pylons potentially under attack soon after this next gateway goes down. He cancels the shield battery. Okay, he starts rebuilding, but he's just going to be rebuilding pylons. It's not shield batteries coming up anytime ever soon.
He needs to wall the right-hand side. Yeah, he needs to wall the main base because this right side pylon's going to go down and you can't re-wall because of the ramp. So he's going to lose the natural. He needed to pull these probes up before this wall went up. He was right to wall off, but he's going to go down to one base.
Oh no, he doesn't have energy to recall. That's so many probes going down. This is already even things up. Actually, at this point, I think JonSnow's already super happy with the damage he's going to get done because guaranteed kill in the natural. He's already breaking through potentially on this main base ramp, but looks like he's finally just going to back off for a second, wait for some more reinforcements, and just blow it up. He's on 3 bases.
This is the problem with the Link Flood on Everdream. Again, you just run out of space as you continue to build backwards because the ramp's there. So the ramp down into that natural, it actually blocks you from building what you need to block. I like this idea from Astrea. This is Glaive's finished, so he has got that on his side. He's building a second immortal. I'm kind of somewhat a believer in the one base all in off of this, you know, Fear Dragon. Got a couple of these gates back up. The biggest issue is you mentioned you never restart a cyber core. Imagine he already had a cyber core down. Now he has to wait for gates to finish, then a cyber core before you can warp in. I think you just go across the map on one base. I don't think you try and re-expand. And maybe Glaive to Depth Immortals can make it happen.
Glaive, it's so funny because he has Glaive Adept Immortals, but he still doesn't have a Cyber Core Warrior. Yeah. Do you just research Charge at this point?
No, you just wait for the Cyber Core and you just warp into Depth then, right? You just have to. I guess he's going to expand, but I'd be very... It's tough if you're going to expand because then you're obviously... Okay, he's just going to take the Immortals across the map.
I actually like this because if you think about it, when you do something like this as JonSnow, you do have, yes, 4 queens still out, but you don't actually have that many queens. I think that this can still get some good damage done. There's 4 queens out right now with the 5th one on the way. The double immortal cover or to push on 3 different bases with no creep spread between the bases. I can see this doing something. If you don't run into all the queens like that, okay, it's already out of shields. This is not the start I think you wanted.
That's a roach at least. I mean, it's something. You know, it's rough because honestly, I feel like if the Adepts are here, you can do pretty well. But again, if you want to take the Nexus, then you got to leave the Adepts at home. Otherwise, the Nexus gets cancelled and then it's just pointless, right?
Yeah. No, I agree. I think you have to leave something at home, at least until you get a wall up there. And you know what? he has forced out a bunch more Lings here from JonSnow. These 2 Immortals that were already there, the Warp Prism that he was already intending to make eventually anyways. I feel like this has actually slowed down JonSnow a little bit. Man, I just keep thinking Astrea would be in a actually winning position right now if he had transferred his workers before he lost the wall and had to fully wall off.
And masses of shield batteries as JonSnow coming across to fight already. Obviously, plenty of roaches and ravagers. I mean, if you hold here as Astrea, you are in a position where JonSnow cut drones at 40, so you've had a good chance to catch up on workers.
I don't like this attack from JonSnow. I don't actually think this is going to win.
No, I don't either. Against Glaive Adept and all the Immortals still up. Yeah. And Astrea
He's not even going to need the battery overcharge. Like, the battery overcharge is actually going to be unnecessary.
Yeah. That's how you know this was not a good decision, right? He doesn't even need the tool added to the game to help Protoss in these scenarios.
Okay, well, the Lings are actually killing a few of these probes there, because like Astrea was just right-clicking down and targeting Ravagers, but yeah, not too bad.
I mean, JonSnow's redroning now. This is where Astrea surely goes across the map. If he realizes that JonSnow's droning like he is, because if he lets him get away with this, that's almost unplayable for Astrea, because you just can't match that work account because you don't have a third base. So if he realizes this third is fully saturated, I don't know if he's going to get close enough, but if he sees that, I really wouldn't mind him just going across the map. He is looking to take a third. It's hard to read the position in the game, though, right? So I can understand. Obviously, it does feel bad being in a position where you're like, oh, yeah, I've got to commit everything across the map. Like, oh, that's kind of scary, obviously.
I'm with you, Wardy, but there's one catch, and that's that Astrea did already make 5 sentries. I really feel like that is the time where if you have those uncertainties about moving across the map, you hallucinate Phoenix down, I think. Like, you just go get that information, see what your opponent actually has, and say, yeah, I think I can make that push. Because I actually feel like, yeah, making it a minute or two later, like if he had just started pushing out now, I still think it would be potentially really strong.
Yeah, maybe now it's like a little too late, but like if he'd gone like right away when he holds the attack, because then JonSnow is in like full, he added on like 20 workers. That's like 2 rounds of production. And he lost so much, right, as well. It's not like he walked away with the entire army alive. He lost all his Lings. He saved like 4 or 5 Ravagers, which is nice, yeah. But like if you're then going to add on 20 drones, you just don't have that many units.
I really wonder if this is just Astrea saying like, hey, JonSnow, I know that you are not doing this full time anymore. You've been really impressive lately, but I just feel that much more confident against you in a late game scenario that I will even play a bit from behind, and I still feel like I can do it. I'm not sure if I am fully on board with that, but
I mean, the thing is, though, he doesn't even have to play late game. He's just going to attack the game, right? He just adds 20 more drones. He benefits from them, and now he's going to go again. What's Astrea done? Very slowly added on 20 more workers. Tried to invest in a lot of different tech. I mean, he's about to have Blink with 2 Stalkers on the map. He's got a Colossus that's not going to have range or anything. And this becomes an unwinnable fight for Astrea. So now more than ever, it really looks like going across and making something happen. Might have been the call, but Ken, it's much easier for us to say that. We see everything. Astrea might have felt that sticking around was the better way to go about it. Unfortunately, it wasn't. And JonSnow is going to take us to a game 3 unless there's some, well, real miracles here on Astrea's side, because there is a lot of Zerg on top of his army.
You know, I would believe a little bit more in the miracles if this was a Disruptor, not a Colossus, which he is making a Disruptor now. And that Colossus is getting some surprisingly good damage done. But at the end of the day, Wardy, even all of these shield batteries cannot save the day. These Ravagers are going to start corrosive biling down everything nearby. And JonSnow is making 20 more roaches. Even if you hold off over here, the 3rd base is gone. Your opponent is on 4 bases, Wardy, and they have more workers. And the army is still not actually cleaned up. There's still roaches and Ravagers here doing damage to your mineral line.
This is over. Astrea is going to micro his heart out. Forgive me for calling games early, guys, but I mean, the micro is sick. Don't get me wrong. He gets another battery overcharge off. He'll corrosive file that battery down. I mean, more roaches just keep streaming in, and you're still kind of upsetting so much army supply. Disruptor gets a couple roaches again. That's nice. There's another Disruptor shot that's going to line up. It's going to do a bit better. Gets a Ravager as well. He's kind of catching up on army supply, but again, you're on 2 bases, one of which isn't currently mining. I mean,
honestly,
JonSnow can just back away.
I think this is a little bit of like a... I actually don't, like, I think there are some times that I see a player doing this kind of stuff, and I'm like, oh, you're probably on full tilt, and you're just desperately trying to micro or something. I actually don't feel like that's the case usually with Astrea, like, after this kind of game. I think he can bounce back pretty decently. To me, this actually feels more like he's just trying to annoy or frustrate JonSnow. I know that there are some players that will do this and they'll just kind of stick it in because it is frustrating if your opponent ever has or even a remote chance of pulling it back. And players like JonSnow or something will kind of say like, oh my god, I cannot believe I almost ended up losing that game. I'm playing so poorly. But JonSnow kills the 2 disruptors, ties up series 1-1.
Well, tied at 1-1 means we are going to get that game 3 once again. We'll start up in 2 minutes time. Game number 3 just keeps finding us today for you, Dragon. As we're going late into the night, as we said, JonSnow and Astrea started up. Maybe not so late into the night for you, a little later into the afternoon. But it's just ticked over to a brand new day here in the good old, never really sunny England.
It's funny how physics works like that, man, where just you can be in a completely different calendar day than us. But North America's still enjoying this wonderful, wonderful day.
Like, you guys are just so Tuesday, and I'm so Wednesday. It's crazy.
That's crazy. So for you, the Pylon show is going to be on today. But for me...
No, because the Pylon show's
on tomorrow.
No, the Pylon show's on Thursdays for me.
Wait, oh yeah, I guess it shows up. It's actually so late in the day.
Yeah?
I didn't think about that.
Ooh.
All right.
Nice try, though.
Okay, well, we're going to be starting down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, top of the blue Zerg player from Psystorm Gaming. He is JonSnow.
Bottom left needs his power. It is Astrea.
You know, Wardy, I'm not complaining here, but it is funny to me that I took a vacation day from work to cast this. And I ended up working more hours than I would normally have to do for work. Because we started pretty early. We started at like 8 a.m., which is already around the time that I would normally, like, I'd probably start work maybe an hour later or something than that. We're already closing in on the time that I would normally be finishing up work. Long day today.
There's two ways I was going to describe this. The first was like, it's like a workcation.
It actually is my workcation.
And the second was, what do you mean work? It's StarCraft.
That's true. Does it even count as work? Can commentators truly say they've ever worked a day in their lives? Wardy, confirm?
I can confirm I've never.
Do we actually do any work?
I mean, I've never worked. I just sit on my computer, play games.
That's true. You don't know the harsh realities of real jobs. All right, Wardy. Let me tell you about the harsh realities of real jobs. And now I actually think that they're easier than casting. As someone who works a real job, yeah. Okay, we got a big drone transfer because we got JonSnow, Money Snow, living up to his name. Gonna be taking that gold base.
Yeah.
And Wardy, how does this usually go?
Well, he was hatch blocked to take it, so it's hard to know if this was a reaction to being hatch blocked or he wanted to take it anyway. Obviously, the big thing about the gold-based mineral line is that you basically hit a certain amount of income earlier on less drones, right? So you hit that income count earlier, which means you can hit your all-in sooner, which is obviously going to power up your all-in. So it can definitely be very aggressive in that front. I like Astrea going Robo because this gives him a Warp Prism option to deny the gold-based mining by going around the back. It also gives him a lot of good defensive options if this turns out to be an all-in, right? We kind of saw this earlier today, right, with Serral versus Rail, where Rail kind of took this base and then Serral kind of all into him, but then Rail kind of held on because he had that gold-based mining. So this is kind of the reverse of that in a way. So it does kind of give you that. It kind of works on both sides. So it also means that it's easier for JonSnow to defend Astrea if Astrea really commits to being all in, which I don't think this is. I think this is just kind of setting up to be some pressure. And you can see JonSnow mining these minerals in the center. Super smart because that's going to allow him to have access to behind his gold-based mineral line.
Yes, very, very important to be able to do and make sure you can defend on that side. Well, with that Warp Prism coming on out, that is definitely going to be a bit of concern. He's not quite rallying the drone to the correct minerals. He's actually mining like imagine the horrible, horrible situation and how sad it'll be if JonSnow just doesn't realize that drone is not mining closest minerals. And it just goes down the line mining one mineral from all the top row and then realizing he can't mine the bottom. But okay, I think he finally did start mining the bottom, so he's finally cleared that off.
Then really a depth there to defend. There's a Rotron from JonSnow. I'm not surprised about that. I mean, this could absolutely be 39 drones and then just pumping roaches and lings across the map. It could just be the Rotron to set up defensively. I mean, we now have an Immortal on the way. So aggression really is a possibility from Astrea as well. You know, it works both ways, right? You know, you can absolutely turn this into a fight. You can absolutely turn this into a longer game. He is going 2 extra gases. It kind of depends how many sentries you want to warp in aggressively. Because you can still somewhat all in off 4 gas, although it's more often seen as a way to tech up.
Yeah, Astrea's really struggling to find bits and pieces of damage over here. And I'm with you. I was expecting that maybe JonSnow would just kind of sit on that lower drone count and go for the big attack. But yeah, he's just going to continue droning. He has long since passed from the days where his nickname used to be the Low Drone King, where he would cut drones maybe like 5 to 8 earlier than most other Zerg players and then just go for the all-in. But well, a few roaches going to be made. We'll see how many he decides to commit to on these 47 drones. If it is just to deal with a light pressure or if he is looking to put on some heavy pressure himself.
Here we go. Astrea kind of moving forward. It makes it look like it's a bit of an attack, right? As he cleans up that thing. Yeah, and in reality, I think he's just thinking about maybe even taking the gold base. He just wants to pressure a bit. He is teching up into Twilight in the Forge. But then a ton of extra gates before he actually expands. He's being very cautious if he is going to expand to a 3rd. That or he's just going to be powering up for an all-in when the upgrade's finished. But it doesn't really kind of time out like that.
Well, Immortals don't really care if there are Queens attacking them because they will still deal damage to those drones. Nearly one-shotting each one of them as they all get down to the red, but the Warp Prism picks them on up. And that's no problem. Astrea doing some really nice damage there because even though only 4 drones killed, it's actually softened up so many of them that if the Immortals come back in later, it's going to be really annoying. And already getting some creep tumor kills as well. Oh, I love this from Astrea.
Yeah, lots of creep going down as we will see the Queens there to punch the Immortals back once again. It's honestly a good amount of workers killed as well. He's keeping JonSnow on a worker deficit here. And that's impressive, especially considering the fact he's still not probing up to take a 3rd base. I mean, this must just be a big +1 charge attack from Astrea, right? At this point, you know, he's got potential to expand. There's nothing stopping him expanding. He is building a 2nd Templar Archives, and that isn't meant to be happening.
That is most certainly a bit of a mistake, and it's a costly one. It's 200 gas. That's an extra High Templar and a quarter that he could have actually made. But regardless, I do agree. I think that a +1 just charge lot Archon attack will be extremely strong right now. You pair it with a couple of good force fields, maybe a Guardian Shield or something, keep those Zealots alive a little bit longer. Man, I am not sure that JonSnow has the tools he needs to actually deal with this.
Especially in a world where JonSnow now was just heavily supply blocked for a little while.
Oh, he's going to get
that
Storm.
Does hurt.
No, he's not moving out.
Takes a 3rd base. I wish I understood Astrea PvZ a bit better. Because he does just play in his own little way, right? And
yeah,
that's very apparent right now because it's just not really anything you usually see. You know, all the signs point to, hey, I'm going to come across the map and kill you. But at the same time, JonSnow's preparing for him to come and kill him. So maybe Astrea's just like, actually, you're ready. So I'm actually just going to go into a 3rd base and then defend because you're going to come and try and kill me.
Yeah, it is super fascinating. I could probably talk to you about Astrea's PvZ and his style of approaching StarCraft for ages, but for right now, all you have to know is that Storm is not done, and these High Templars are trying to buy time. Force fields are being thrown on up. The 3rd base is going to be extremely vulnerable, but it hasn't finished just yet. It can still be canceled. Will Astrea go for it? He has cleaned up most of the Lings that went their way down the ramp. Storm is 10 seconds away from finishing, but the Zealots are actually buying enough time, and the Immortals are staying alive. Oh my god, the Prism goes down with most of the High Templar.
No, he was about to have Storm, and now he's only got 1 High Templar remaining. The other two in the Warp Prism. What a set of corrosive files that is. Wow, I think it's a hold anyway from Astrea, at least against these burst units. And then there's Reinforcing Roaches, another set of files. Astrea's micro is really not quite what it could be, and maybe that's because it's very late at night for him, or very early in the morning. Definitely could have an impact.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be hurting him, but, you know, like you said, it is a hold. Technically, I think it is a very narrow hold, and I'm a little worried about how close together these 2 gold bases are, because that also means JonSnow can continue aggression with more units just coming on out. He's sitting on only 49 workers, and Astrea needs more time to build up energy on things like High Templars for them to be effective. And even then, 5 High Templars without a whole lot of frontal tanking units like Zealots, the Roaches are just going to be able to tank a lot of that and just move out of the way.
Nice Storms on top of these Roaches, though, and that's going to be enough for Astrea to hold off for the moment. And I mean, the fact Astrea's got it. So the thing about this, JonSnow took his gold base early, is now mining out, doesn't have a 4th up. So he's actually on kind of 2.5 bases, which should be, you know, usually it would still be 3 bases going up to a 4th. But now it's like 2.5, and Astrea's on a gold base of his own that's fresh. So that advantage is huge, and Astrea will definitely start to mine more because of it. I actually think, man, this is a hold and looking good from Astrea. Imagine you had the 4 extra High Templar that died in that Prism, and the Prism to help micro. The difference that would have made.
I mean, he would have been able to make like 1 or 2 Archons over here, just totally round out this composition. And I feel like he would be on the death push right now. But I think JonSnow has just a little bit of space because of that. And I totally agree. He is not looking so hot economically right now, especially after the Storm drop killing a few workers here. But the gold base just does not have many minerals left over. And that 4th base coming up so late, I do think that Astrea is starting to snowball a little bit here.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's it's kind of similar to what happened in game 1, right? JonSnow ran out of steam and his army's not set up to go into a longer and longer game, and Astrea can draw that game out a little bit longer and keep on pushing.
Well, Baneling being added in, actually, I mean, some good Baneling connections could turn this series or turn this game around right now for JonSnow. It is a very Zealot, high Templar heavy composition. If the storms don't land properly, I mean, I don't think there's any sentries. Right? There's one sentry for force fields. I can see a world where these banelings do change the pace of this.
Yeah. No, I mean, you really are just like a few Baneling connections away from a Protoss army evaporating at any point in time, right?
That's true.
So
I do feel that way.
So it really just comes down to, yes, JonSnow has a way to maybe fight this, but Astrea has all the tools he needs to stop that from happening with the storm.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree with that. It should not be something that Astrea should falter too much to. He has, like you said, the tools he needs. It is just going to be about Astrea using them. Oh, fourth base coming on up. It seems like it should be pretty safe against the small little Ling counterattack with so many Zealots. And when you have so many High Templar warding that you can split up half and half of your High Templar and still have maybe like 7 storms at each side.
It's crazy, right?
This is the kind of PvZ I like to play, where it's just lots of Zealots, lots of High Templar.
Yeah, it's a fun one. Love that Astrea's across the map, forcing you to run back, takes the fourth base with it, right? And now he even gets the lair. But this is the sort of thing that makes PvZ so difficult from the Zerg point of view, right? You know, you've got to keep pulling back to deal with this Prism harassment, and definitely puts you into a weird spot. And Astrea's using it to... Astrea's making the most of it.
Oh, most certainly. The War Prism still has to be dealt with because that lair is down to its last legs. So JonSnow has to respect it and leave some units back over here. But now, if JonSnow just doesn't encounter the War Prism again, you still got to leave those units there. But Astrea's going to have an even larger army at the front lines. Storm also really piling on some big damage on the Roaches and Ravagers. I like that JonSnow's still attempting the counterattacks, though, because Astrea has bunched up his whole army together again. He doesn't have that split off over at his other top left-hand base anymore.
Lots of Ling wanting to counter that top left side, but the Storm, so there's still a couple there, right? And I think it's just enough. Yeah, Astrea just playing it calm and slow, and he doesn't really need to change that up because at the end of the day, there's always a few Banes on this gold, a few probes on this gold base. That Bane drop is good. At the end of the day, JonSnow's army only gets so good, and Astrea's army just gets better given time. It's JonSnow that's meant to be trading with this army comp. So I don't think Astrea necessarily needs to be pushing across the map and trying to fight, so, as much as he is at the moment.
Yeah, you know what's also funny is that I feel like JonSnow, I almost would have liked to have seen him take the bottom side of the map more in this situation, because if you think about it, his gold base is already mined out, so he's mined out the area where he could walk through. The center area technically is also open, so Astrea could push through there, but it'd be kind of tough. And oh my god, Corrosive Bells. Only connect with a few of these Immortals, but not enough to do the big damage there and actually take any of them out. A lot of drones going down at that gold base. And oh, JonSnow's going to just try and trap in this army. Is it going to work out?
He's got a lot of High Templar, and the High Templar hitting some great storms to start. So many of these rounds are one-hittable by Immortals. Oh, those storms are absolutely brutal. These Ravagers just fall apart now. And there's not enough Banelings to really justify rolling into this. That Immortal Archon count and High Templar count was just too high for a Ling Ravager Bane army in the position JonSnow is in.
Wardy, I'm afraid that JonSnow is just not going to move out anymore. He's just, for the rest of his career, he's not going to actually try and get surrounds on armies or anything, because that was some shock therapy right there. That was some big messaging from Astrea to JonSnow saying, no, bad Jared, stop that. No, surround me.
It's so true though, right? Like, it's just like anything that JonSnow does, which is the right idea, is being shut down so hard. But doesn't that just tell you where where JonSnow's at in this game, kind of? Like, yeah, that's just how good this Protoss army has gotten to, because he's not being forced in the fights across the map. The idea of the Bane drop killing a few probes, he needed that A earlier and be way more of it and way more consistently, and not having that just let Astrea get to this position. I mean, a couple Banes getting close here. The Storms are once again consistently really good. He's losing probes on the third base, fourth base at the same time. So that is 18 workers down for Astrea.
He's still oversaturated.
I mean, Astrea's just got money in the bank. He's not spending again, Fear Dragon. He's on 8 gates, but he's definitely missing some warping cycles, because that's not the money you should have if you're on 8 gates at this stage.
It's really uncharacteristic, I feel like, from Astrea as well. But, you know, it feels like maybe he's just intentionally not warping in Zealots or a large number of Zealots. I wonder if it's just that he's very intentionally focusing on making more High Templar, focusing on spending his gas and saving the minerals for something else later. I don't know.
Maybe just saving the minerals for when he gets into a fight, killed the Banes, and then he can just warp in the Zealots or something.
I could see that actually, yeah. Although,
That'd
you
make
know,
more sense if he had a prism, which he could
I was
really
gonna say.
afford with. Well, he does have a prism actually. Where is it? It's across the map. It's just patrolling. Not doing much.
I think it was the prism from earlier that was harassing the base layer as well, right?
Yeah, it's just not done much in a while, basically. Which is a shame because that's a perfect place for those, you know, minerals to go.
Yeah, I concur completely and wholeheartedly. Well, more Lings are just going to be on the way here for JonSnow. He's also finishing up his +2 missile attack upgrade, which will actually be kind of helpful in some of these fights here and there. Is it going to make the difference, though? Is it going to be able to prevent these massive storms, Wardy? I'm not so sure, but hey, killing off the High Templars will actually prevent them.
Yeah, that is true, but then Zealots have finally come back into play on the top right-hand side, so that's that base going down. You lose your 4th base here. What do you have as JonSnow? We're 17 minutes in game. Okay, it's not really his 4th base, right? Because the gold was his 3rd, so it's kind of his 5th base. Even still, it means he's really only mining off the 4th base. The natural's running dry very quickly. There's not a lot of mining left in the game for JonSnow, while Astrea takes new bases on the top and bottom sides of the map, keeps his economy strong, and that army still looks unengageable for Roach Ravager.
Wardy, I think JonSnow should have been taking the bottom bases like 6 minutes ago. I actually really think those would have been safer bases for him to take. I know that there's still the threat of like charge law weapons with the war prism and stuff, but I actually feel like he's cleared off enough of the mineral patches. He can move between those bases a little bit more easily. And I feel as though Astrea still needs to keep his army somewhat bunched up to make use of the High Templar.
A few more battles out in front of those Archons, and still just having an Archon Immortal pressing through. High Templar dodging away. A couple of Immortals taking shots as Vials continue to rain down from above.
Oh, that Zealot run by is going to guarantee the kill on that base. Kill off a few Zerglings, and well, Bailey's probably get the best connections they could ever ask for. But it's still a desperate and dire situation right now for JonSnow.
Well, let's try it back.
I believe this is just the first series that all these players of Group B are playing.
You say all these players? I feel like it's just these two. It's just because all of our games here on the mainstream have gone long. I mean, this is a surround from the top side. Not really much coming in from the right. The High Templar kind of got Lings on top of them, but they're not really killing them. So Astrea's backing away, and I think he's going to realize, okay, he blinks forward. That's when he realizes, hey, you do not have enough JonSnow. What are you doing in my game? Get out of it.